The moment I realized something was wrong wasn't dramatic. It was small. I was standing in my kitchen, holding a spoon, and I couldn't remember why I was there. The stove wasn't on. The kettle was cold. I just stood there, listening to the refrigerator hum, feeling like I had arrived late to my own life. That scared me more than anything else ever had. I am 76 now. People think age brings wisdom. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just brings clarity, and clarity can hurt. I've had a lot of time to look back, especially in the evenings when the house goes quiet and there's nothing to distract me. That's when I see it clearly. I never built discipline, not when it mattered, not when it could have changed things. When I was young, I didn't think about that word at all. Discipline felt like something for soldiers or strict fathers. My family wasn't like that. We lived simply. My parents worked hard, but they were tired. Nobody sat me down to talk about habits or responsibility. You woke up, you went where you were told, and you got through the day. That was enough. In school, I did just well enough to stay out of trouble. If something interested me, I tried. If it didn't, I let it slide. Teachers would pull me aside and say I was capable of more. I nodded. I believed them. I just didn't do anything with it. I always assumed there would be time later to take things seriously. Later came quickly. I started working right after school. It was a factory job, loud machines, early mornings, the same faces every day. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. I showed up because that's what you did. People praised me for being reliable, but truthfully, I was just following a schedule someone else made. When the day ended, so did my effort. I never thought beyond the next paycheck. I met my wife around that time. She was organized in ways I wasn't. She planned dinners, she remembered birthdays, she woke up early even on days off. I admired that about her. I also leaned on it more than I should have. When we married, I promised I'd be more responsible. I meant it in the moment. I always meant it. Our life together wasn't special from the outside. We worked, we came home, we ate dinner. Sometimes we talked about dreams. Sometimes we were too tired. I told myself stability was enough. I didn't notice how often I avoided things that required effort. Bills got paid, but barely on time. Repairs were done when something broke, never before. I lived in reaction mode. We had children. I loved them deeply, but even that didn't change me the way it should have. I went to work. I came home tired. I told myself providing was the same as being present. When I missed moments, I convinced myself there would be others. There usually were, until there weren't. Years moved quietly, not fast, not slow, just steady. That's the dangerous part. Nothing feels wrong when you're drifting slowly. You don't notice how far you've gone until you stop moving. By the time I realized that, I was already older than I ever imagined myself being. And I still believed somehow that I had time to fix what I never practiced. That belief followed me for many years, and I didn't know yet how expensive it would become. I kept telling myself that later would come. That one day I would wake up with energy, with focus, with a clear sense of direction. Instead, what came was age. My body slowed before my mind was ready to admit it. My hands started shaking a little when I poured coffee. My knees complained when I climbed stairs. I blamed time, but I knew better. I had never trained myself to stay steady. At work, younger men passed me by. They weren't smarter, they were just consistent. They asked questions. They stayed late. They followed through. When my supervisor offered me training for a better position, I said I'd think about it. I always needed time to think. By the time I answered, the chance was gone. That happened more than once. Each time I told myself unmanas didn't matter. Here's the truth I didn't want to face back then. It did matter. It just didn't make noise when it left. After retirement, the days opened up in a way that felt freeing at first. No alarm clock, no rush. I thought this would finally be when I became disciplined. I bought notebooks. I made plans in my head. I told myself tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow stayed the same. Without structure, I drifted even more. That's when it really hit me. Discipline isn't something you suddenly find when life slows down. It's something you carry with you, or you don't. Then my wife got sick. That changed the shape of everything. The woman who had held our life together grew tired. Doctor visits replaced dinners out. Silence replaced small talk. I stepped in where I could, but I saw clearly how much she had carried for decades. I felt a quiet shame, not loud enough to break me, but heavy enough to stay. She passed away on a morning that felt ordinary in every way except one. The house didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt like a place I was borrowing. That was the second hook life gave me, and I felt it deeply. Loss doesn't shout. It leaves space. Too much space. After that, time moved strangely. Days blurred. Weeks disappeared. Friends checked in at first. I said I was fine. That's what I always said. They stopped calling as often. I didn't reach out. I never learned how to. Now I live alone. My routines are simple. Coffee, newspaper, a walk if my joints allow it. Some days I do better. Some days I don't. I think often about how many small chances I had to build something steadier. Not success, just steadiness. Small habits, small promises kept. Here's the part that still surprises me. Regret doesn't feel sharp. It feels dull. It settles in quietly, like dust you don't notice until the light hits it just right. I don't cry much. I just sit and think. If you're listening to this and you're younger than me, I won't tell you what to do. I don't have the right. I'll only say this, the way an old man would say it late at night. Time doesn't wait for confidence. It moves while you're deciding. If someone comes to mind right now, someone you haven't spoken to in a while, reach out. You don't need the perfect words. I waited for those my whole life. They never came. If you want, you can share your story in the comments. I read them slowly, one by one. It reminds me I'm not the only one thinking about these things. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, you can subscribe. I'm still here. I still have time to talk. There are nights now when sleep doesn't come easily. I lie there listening to the house settle. Small sounds I never noticed when I was younger. The ticking clock, a car passing far away, my own breathing. These moments feel honest. There's nothing to rush to anymore, nothing pretending to be important, just time sitting with me. I think a lot about discipline in these quiet hours. Not the harsh kind people talk about, just the simple kind. Waking up when you said you would, calling someone when you thought of them, taking care of your body before it complains. I didn't ignore these things on purpose. I just kept assuming I would get to them later. Later is a strange thing. When you're young, it feels endless. When you're old, you realize it was never guaranteed. I look back at my life and see long stretches that were fine. Not terrible, not great, just fine. I worked, I paid bills. I showed up often enough to be called dependable. But I also see how much I left undone because it felt uncomfortable or tiring. I avoided small efforts, and those small efforts were exactly what could have shaped things differently. My children are grown now. They have their own lives, their own routines. We talk, but not as often as I'd like. When we do, I listen more than I speak. I don't want to fill the space with advice they didn't ask for. I just want them to know I'm here. Sometimes I wonder who I might have been if I had practiced steadiness early on. Not success, not achievement, just follow through. I don't stay in that thought too long. There's no use punishing yourself at this age. Understanding is enough. The truth is, life didn't demand discipline from me. It allowed me to slide. And sliding feels easy until you realize you've gone far from where you meant to be. These days, I try in small ways. I make my bed in the morning. I take my walk even when I don't feel like it. I call one person a week just to ask how they're doing. It doesn't erase the past, but it makes the present feel a little more solid. That matters more than I once thought. If I sound calm, it's because I am. Regret doesn't have to be loud. It can sit beside you and teach you quietly. I've learned that time isn't something you control. Attention is. Care is. Those things are still available, even now. If you're listening to this late at night, maybe alone, maybe tired, I want you to know something. You don't need a big plan to start caring for your life. You don't need a new version of yourself. You just need to notice the small things you keep postponing and choose one of them tomorrow. Not for success, not for praise. Just so years from now, you don't sit in a quiet room wondering where they all went. If someone crossed your mind while listening to me, please reach out to them. A short message is enough. A call that feels awkward is still better than silence. I waited too often. Silence is patient, but it takes more than it gives. If you feel like it, share your own story in the comments, where you are, what you're thinking about, what you're afraid of delaying. I read them slowly, the way an old man reads things. And if you want to hear more of these late-night thoughts, you can subscribe. I don't have everything figured out. I just have time and a voice and the wish that maybe my looking back helps someone else look forward a little sooner.